The Abhidhamma Bhasha is precisely an examination and discussion on the differences of definitions that produce all the controversies. And it's precisely as a result of the controversies that we have what is called development in Buddhist scholarship or so-called Buddhist philosophy. So I think differences definitely exist, and sometimes it's extremely important to see that even though, maybe my point of view is quite a bit different now, even though definitions can look similar, but some few important differences in the definition can point to, can represent some very profound difference in the mentality and in what you might call doctrinal differences. Yes. So I think this is I mean, the emphasis, I share the enthusiasm and the general emphasis, but I think that the differences are extremely important, and there are important differences in, for example, talking about mind, Manochitta Vijnanas. You see, there are differences in definitions that represent difference in philosophy of the doctrine. Now, in the Yogacara, as you know, Chitta, Manas, Vijnana do not mean the same entity, right? Whereas in Theravada and in Sarvastivada, they mean the same entity. And what is Manas, for example, is very different, right? And so on. And come to Chitta, Chitta is Ala Vijnana, and so on, right? So, and also Sarvastivada said that what is Vijnana is what arises in the present. Chitta is what represents the essence of the thing, as it were, and i.e. pertaining to the future. And Manas is always what pertains to the past. Now, these are differences in definitions. If you study them, you'll find that underneath there are a lot of differences in way of thinking and doctrines.
Okay, thank you very much for enlightening us with the topic. Now we have to move to the next speaker. The speaker is from Buddhist and Pali University, Dr. Lankan, Senior Development Department of Sanskrit. His topic is a comparative study on Lanka with Theravada and Sarvastivada schools. Vice Chancellor and Professor Dhamma Thera and Venerable Sirs, dear friends. First of all, I would like to pay my gratitude to our Tibetan monks, but for the protecting our texts, and they have preserved our texts which are not appear in Sri Lanka or in India. Most of texts are there in Tibet and in Sanskrit, all those texts, and I pay my gratitude to them first of all. So today I'm going to explain this topic, a comparative study on dharmas with reference to Abhidhamma in Theravada and Sarvastivada schools. So from morning we have discussed the same facts. I think no need to explain deeply. Venerable Dhamma Thera also explained the same facts, and also later on our Tibetan monk. So let's see. Introduction. The word dharma has a widespread sense in the philosophical context. When the Buddhist views expanded, it gained different definitions and explanations as a result of explaining dharmas. So here we have to see many explanations, many divergent views are occurred as a result of explaining the doctrinal facts. So according to those explanations, different sectors, different schools occurred. So see the definition of dharma. This is from Abhidhamma Kosa. Before explaining this, I would like to say you, Vasubandhu is a great scholar. Actually, we can't find to which sector he is connected. He ordained in Sarvastivada school nearby Manoratha Thera. Then he became Sautrantika. Again, he became Vijnanavada, Yogachara, Vijnanavada with the advices of Asanga, his brother. So he is a great scholar. So we can't exactly name him as Sarvastivada or Vijnanavadin or Sautrantika. However, Abhidhamma Kosa wrote following Sarvastivada school because Jnana Prasthana and Sangyukta Abhidharma Hrudaya is the base or basement of Abhidharma Kosha. Following those two books, Vasubandhu wrote Abhidharma Kosha. So that is why we say Vasubandhu is connected to Sarvastivada section. So a third verse of first chapter in Abhidharma Kosha explains the value of understanding dharmas. Dharma nam pravichya mantarena nasti klesha nam yata.
About different tradition, and that's very good. And this Venerable has in fact given mostly an exposition of Sarvastivada, even though it's supposed to be more comparative thing. He does compare, but largely he was trying to explain on Sarvastivada views. I think that is to be encouraged. All right? This is the first thing I want to say. At the same time, let me say that I think that it also shows me that there's still a lot and a lot to be done in the understanding and study of this Sanskrit material, or Sarvastivada material. I must say that many definitions you have given are not correctly given. For example, the definition of what dharma is, you have given the stanza from Abhidhamma Bhasha, whereas the definition is Swalakshana Dharanat Dharmaha. And it is because of that you say that in many instances you say this is not actually dharma, but they make it a dharma. That is not actually dharma, they make it dharma. Property is not a dharma, but they make it dharma, right? That's because I think we need to understand what they mean by dharma. They all have the dharana of Swalakshana, and therefore they are dharma. So their Swalakshana are different. And Adimoksha is definitely not samadhi.
A special announcement from the organizing committee. Now actually we are not going to stop the session for tea break. So the Nescafe machine is just outside the room. So if anybody wants to have Nescafe, may go and have one and come back to the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Venerable Mahasangha, dear scholars and dear Dhamma friends. Now we are going to start the second session of our Abhidhamma workshop. So in this session there are 4 presenters. First of all, I would like to say all the presenters have enough time. I think we can give 15 minutes for one presenter. After the all presentation finish, if you want, you can ask the questions. And after each presentation finish, our chair is here, Professor Itadimil Indasara Nayakathero, the former Vice Chancellor of Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. Then he will give a comment about the presentation. First of all, I would like to invite Venerable Ilukewala Dhammaratana Thero. He is a lecturer of Buddhist Department of Buddhist Philosophy, Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. So I would like to invite Venerable Ilukewala Dhammaratana Thero to present his presentation.
Good afternoon, the chairperson, the moderator, Dr. Most Honorable Murugallaga Uparatana Thera, and the members of Mahasangha, the distinguished scholars. This time I am going to discuss Chitta Viprayuta Sanskara in relation to Theravada Abhidhamma. Actually, which is focus my attention. Because of the statement made by Professor P.S. Jayani, says Padmanabh S. Jayani, The reason is that he says, after an akusala chitta, there arise kusala chitta, or how akusala chitta follows a kusala chitta.
I would like to invite our second presenter, Venerable Gesh Tenpa Pokpe. He is the professor of Drepang Monastic University. Venerable sir, please. Promoting Buddhism, touching on the combined features of both Theravada and Sarvastivada Abhidhamma traditions.
In this unprecedented dialogue on Abhidhamma. Thanks to organizers and especially to those who worked very hard behind the scenes to bring us all together here in this place. My topic here is to propose methods and means to propagate Buddhism in the light of both the Theravada and the Sarvastivada Abhidhamma traditions. We share a common wish and thought, how to strengthen and spread the teaching of great Buddha far and wide for the benefit of all the beings. At present, our world is reeling under deep spell of negative thoughts like jealousy, hatred, and excessive greed, which causes irreversible damage to ecology, environment, and natural resources, and violence, killing, harming, and abusing. All that is obviously happening around us. I think we all are very fortunate to have precious teaching of the Lord Buddha, present after 2,560 years of his parinirvana. We believe the Buddha Dharma has infinite capability to believe all beings. Thus it must remain till distant future. The wisdom, methods, values, and instructions taught long ago, now commonly available in the Abhidhamma literatures of both traditions, we are fully relevant to the contemporary world. Time has arrived to initiate joint effort to propagate Buddha Dharma through mutual respect and cooperations. Most importantly, with a pure mentality of kindship among Shakyaputiya ascetics. We as Buddhists should avoid superciliousness and help people from diverse religious backgrounds, including non-believers, to eliminate sufferings. Live a life of contentment, self-discipline, peace, non-violence, and pure joy. It is taught in the Abhidhamma literature. I believe that will help us greatly to strengthen and spread Buddha Dharma throughout the world for the benefit of a living being, and it is an urgent need to our time. Here I would like to quote Acharya Vasubandhu, the greatest authority on Abhidhamma in Sarvastivada traditions. In the Abhidhamma Kosha, the treasure of knowledge, Acharya Vasubandhu said, there are two types of sublime dharma of Buddha, the literature and the spiritual realizations. Upholding it, sublime dharma, means only teaching it, the literature, and actualizing it, spiritual realizations. In henceforth should first acquire correct knowledge through proper learning of literatures and acquire realization through the practice of three higher turnings. Then it should be radiated outward to help others in one's own family, neighborhood, town, city, and reach out the whole world. That will definitely to help reduce present problem of the human being.
He has suggested a very timely needed organization. In fact, the Vajrayana, Mahayana, and Theravada, these all the traditions has a root up from one germs. I mean, in Tibetan side, the Lamaism, they are also following, I think, same tradition. For instance, they follow the Vinaya, Mula Sarvastivada Vinaya, no? And Mahayanas, the China side, they follow the Dharmaguptaka Vinaya. Mula Sarvastivadin and Dharmaguptakas they are the branches of Theravada side. So Mula Sarvastivadin from Kashmir side, they went to the Tibetan side. And then the other Dharmaguptakas also, their Vinaya have been taken to the China side. Those traditions, they follow the same Vinaya. And Abhidhamma also slightly different. So therefore, the same doctrines, same Vinayas we are following. So slightly differences are there. Now it is time to come under the one umbrella and organize and work together. Today the world, we need it because the other religious organizations are coming up and everywhere in the world they are working for themselves. As a Buddhist, as a one organization also, we have to work together and we have to discuss these dhammas and work together. Your suggestions is very valuable, very timely needed one. So Dr. Poragi is there. Now he also has a form Tibetan and Sri Lankan Brotherhood Society. And here we are organizing this forum in Buddhist and Pali University, and coming forward to Buddhist and Pali University and Dr. Puragi. And I think in the future we can form this committee and work together. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable Professor Gesh Tenpa Pokpe. Our next presenter is Mr. Samantha Ilangakon. He is the Senior Lecturer of Buddhist and Pali University and Head of the Department of Religious Studies and Comparative Religion.
Venerable Professor Ittadamali Indasaranayaga Thera and Venerable Dr. Moragoldagam Uparatana Thera on the head table, and Venerable Sangha, Reverences, Dr. Porage and all the delegates, and the undergraduates of Buddhist and Pali University, and my colleagues. I wonder whether my presence is relevant, because I am the only lay person among the presenters. So for a change, this would be a nice thing, I think. On the other hand, from the morning up to now, we have discussed many concepts in both Theravada and Sarvastivada Abhidhamma. I am doubtful whether my topic is so relevant. But however, I intend to discuss the concept of time from the Buddhist perspective. Now, time concept being theory in physics as well as in Western philosophy, but even in Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept of time.
Venerable Gesh Lobsang Chopel, I kindly invite Venerable Sir. His topic is Origin of Abhidhamma in Two Traditions, Theravada and Sarvastivada.
Respect to former Chancellor and distinguished guests and the Sangha's member and all the guests. And also I would like to thank Sri Lanka Tibetan Buddhist Brotherhood Society and the Pali and the Buddhist University of Sri Lanka for providing me this beautiful opportunity to interact with our respect and the beloved fellow brothers in the Theravada world. And I would like to ask forgiveness to not having the PowerPoint for my presentation, so I couldn't prepare for my presentation. So I just present my presentation. And this is a wonderful program, and I request the organizer and the prayer for Tibetan to shower us with a more such, even in future, for a wider and better interaction between the followers of the great Buddha. And I would also like to express sadness and empathy to my Sri Lankan Brotherhood and the sisters for the recent natural disaster that caused huge loss of the life and property in some areas. We stand with all the victims with a deep empathy and offer prayer and the moral support. Origin of Abhidhamma. Some modern scholars believe that the Abhidhamma emerged after the time of the Buddha as the growth of monastic center and the support for the Buddhist Sangha provided the resource and expertise necessary to systematically analyze the early teaching. However, the group of scholars believe that the Abhidhamma represent an expansion of the set of teaching and the categories that were employed during the earliest period of Buddhism and the were then later developed and elaborate open. The traditionally Theravada Buddhists have held that Abhidhamma was not a later addition to the tradition, but rather represent the first. The original understanding of the teaching by the Buddha, according to the legend, shortly after his awakening, the Buddha spent several days in the meditation, during which he formulated the Abhidhamma. Later he traveled to the heavenly realm and taught the Abhidhamma to the divine being that dwelled there, including his deceased mother Mahamaya, who was rebirthed as a...
Now it's time for the discussion on the academic papers presented. I cordially invite Venerable Professor Kuala Lumpur Dhammajyoti Thero, Venerable Professor Ittademili Indasara Thero, the former Vice Chancellor, he's already on the stage, Venerable Dr. Murugallaga Muprathana Thero, and Dr. Dhamendra Porage for the discussion.
Actually, I remember according to the MC and according to other organizers, the afternoon was supposed to be the most important and most valuable, and we had that, so we're very lucky. Now this is to be followed by discussions, and we have a lot of time, especially dedicated to discussions, and discussions are always an important part of Abhidhamma development, you know. And that's why you have discussions, argument, controversies. But we argue not for the sake of just mere argument, for the sake of finding out the truths. You see, in the process of arguing, we ourselves become clearer. We have to be honest and say, oh yes, I didn't think like that. You know, oh yes, another person has a different perspective. That makes us think, and that's how we develop. If we are stubborn and just stick to our own view, we never ever learn. So I think discussions are a very important process, especially in the context of learning Abhidhamma. We have to decide. Sometimes we have to argue, but we of course try to remember the purpose of the discussions. Afternoon also was a very heavy session after heavy lunch, and I could not help falling into some kind of samadhi, partly. So I think I missed some of the things that have been said, but I caught a few things, and I like to learn more. Huh? And sometimes my students ask questions and make me think. Even though I think they ask silly questions, but sometimes there is something that is worth, for the teacher to even listen and think about, So I think it's very valuable. Anyway, the latest that I was listening was from Venerable Dhammaratana. Part of it, I was listening to part of it, and that again, after listening to all these few, I feel I'm convinced about one thing, that firstly, there is now an awareness. There's now an awareness in Sri Lanka, in the Theravada tradition, that we have to go out to other related schools to learn, to have dialogue. That's a very important development. It doesn't matter we are imperfect, nobody is perfect. But that sincerity, the awareness is important, and the awareness has to be brought up further. Today we have invited the Tibetan scholars and others coming here, and things I never saw when I was teaching here for all these years. I taught for 22 years in Sri Lanka. I never saw something like that. I remember, I think I was the first one to bring a Tibetan teacher to Sri Lanka when I was teaching at the Post Institute. I spent my own money to bring him and to stay in my temple in Balapitiya. And I benefited at that time because I read Tibetan texts with him also. So I benefited myself, and I wanted to promote that awareness. It's time, that we have to learn. We mustn't assume just because you know Pali, just because you know Sinhalese, we know everything about Buddhism. Others don't know. If we have that kind of mentality, I think it's unfortunate. It's not just here. Even I find, I have been back. I'm a Chinese, and I'll be back to Chinese. I'm not from China, but I'm from Chinese descent, from Malaysia. And when I go back to Hong Kong, for all these years, and the Chinese, although Malaysia, I feel the same thing. They think that just because they know Chinese, just because they can read Chinese Buddhist texts, and just because they are used to all the Chinese terms, they know Buddhism better than others. It's very difficult to open up their mind. So even though they may have dialogues, you think they sponsor huge meetings and invite scholars from Theravada country, others, and to Taiwan, to Hong Kong. They stay in 5-star hotels and things like that. But in most cases, they were not real dialogue because their heart is not there. They just want to voice their own views. To make and they don't want to listen. So in the dialogue, we must listen. We don't have to agree with everything, but we must learn to listen. I think so. Therefore, I feel that it's a very good development now in Sri Lanka and today is a good example. It's just a start, I think, and I really wish that you can really bring some Tibetan teachers here to teach Buddhism and all that. So this is one thing. Also one thing you have learned already, to understand something about Sarvastivada Dharma, it's very important to know Tibetan. It's also equally important to know Chinese, and not even just Sanskrit. Actually, there are very few Sanskrit texts, you know? Do you know that? Very few Sanskrit texts that you can find dealing with